And I think we already have an opening email question that we'll go ahead and do to kick everything off. This is from Wendy. I received a large settlement earlier this year from a car wreck. Will I have to pay federal or state income taxes on that amount? And that is from Wendy. Mindy, this is probably one of the most frequent questions I get through the course of a case, and it's a very important one. We've got this settlement now, and what does that mean from an income tax standpoint?
The good news is that if it was due to physical injury or physical sickness, then it's actually excluded from income. Big thing though, make sure that you keep your paperwork. Right. So the paperwork from your settlement, everything that relates to how the allocation was made, it is excludable from income as long as it was due to physical injury.
Part of any settlement that you should get is not only the release showing that you've signed and resolved the case or a settlement agreement, but also a disbursement statement that shows exactly how much you settled the case for, what the attorney's fees were, what you paid back in medical expenses or liens, and then what you netted at the end of the day. And it's important to keep all of that together with your important papers just in case you are ever audited or anyone asks you any questions. I know, Mindy, there's been things floated around recently about maybe having more federal oversight of when you're depositing money into the banks. Right now, if you were to take more than $10,000 to the bank or $10,000 in any transaction, that's a reportable event. And I remember a few years ago they were talking about even changing that to check transactions. So who knows if that's going to happen in the future. So make sure and keep that documentation. Your lawyer should also always have it if God forbid you lose it. So just make sure and keep that information so that you can explain that and answer that if that ever comes up.
Speaking of paperwork,
yes,
you always want to keep your tax documents for at least 7 years.
Absolutely.
So that's always a question that we get when people call the office. They say, how long do I need to keep all this stuff? A good rule of thumb is 7 years.
Right. And I know if God forbid, if you've lost them, you can request them directly from the IRS, because I know that's something that happens frequently with us when we get into lawsuits. Individuals have moved, they've lost the paperwork, and you can, but I believe they charge you about $25 a year to get those. So it's best if you can just keep them or go to your accountant and then get a copy from them. I know if I needed one, Mindy would be able to get me copies of mine right away. So it's just important to keep that kind of stuff. And in today's age, you can keep them digitally as well as in hard form. So just make sure and keep that with all of your important paperwork so that you have it when the time arises.